how's it going? And welcome back to another one of our various episodes here. Today we're going to be talking about the various component strands of the visual arts. So before we get into that, I've got a quick activity and I'll run through all of the lesson plans in this segment of the video. Real quickly, to get us going, there are 5 component strands. We've got artistic perception, creative expression, historical and cultural context, next up aesthetic valuing, and finally connections, relationships, and applications. To get started here, what I'll do is I'll show you kind of a mnemonic device in regards to how to memorize those. So if you would take a look right over here, we'll pretend that this is symbolic of a classroom. Think of this as corner 1, corner 2, corner 3, corner 4, and finally we're out of corner, so we switch to the middle of the room. And it all comes together in a little bit. So if you would just kind of bear with me here. So I might start off by saying, in corner 1, we have the alligator. Alligator stands for artistic perception. Then I would ask you, what's in corner number 1? And you would say, alligator. And then I would ask, what does alligator stand for? You would say, artistic perception. So that's more or less how everything will run through. So we'll run through it all one time here. Here goes. So in corner number 1, we've got the alligator. What's in corner number 1? You would say alligator. And alligator stands for artistic perception. Think of the key vocabulary words that you would need in order to describe artwork itself. So if you were a dancer, you might use the word plie. If you were someone who was in the field of theater, you might use the vocabulary word blocking. If you were working with visual art, you might use the term color or hue or texture. Those are ideas. So in corner number 1, what animal do we have? Alligator. And alligator stands for artistic perception. Artistic perception represents the key vocabulary words. Moving on to corner number 2. In corner number 2, we have a cat. What's in corner number 2? You would say cat. Cat stands for creative expression. What does cat stand for? You would say creative expression. Creative expression is basically what are you creating within the various art forms. So if you're working with visual art, are you creating a sculpture? Are you creating a painting? Are you creating a drawing? If you're in theater, are you creating a performance, a play? If you're in dance, what is your composition like? If you're in music, are you writing a song, a symphony? That's basically the cat for creative expression. So what animal's in corner number 1? The alligator. Alligator stands for artistic perception. Artistic perception relates to the vocabulary words that we use. In corner number 2, we have the cat, which represents creative expression. Creative expression is all about creating things within your form of art. In corner number 3, we have the hippo, which stands for historical and cultural connections. Historical and cultural connections. What animal's in corner number 3? The hippo. Hippo stands for historical and cultural connections. What does it stand for? You would say historical and cultural connections. After that, to review historical and cultural connections, think of, for example, a few holidays. Think of Cinco de Mayo, for example, or Dia de los Muertos. How are you creating a connection with history to that idea? During Dia de los Muertos, a lot of artistic sculptures are created that kind of symbolize certain things and meanings. That's basically historical and cultural connections. You're relating your artwork to history, or you're relating your artwork to culture. Moving on, in corner number 4, we have the aardvark. Which animal's in corner number 4? The aardvark is what you would respond with. Aardvark stands for aesthetic valuing. What does aardvark stand for? You would say aesthetic valuing. Aesthetic valuing is all about describing what you see, but not only are we describing with the key vocabulary words, you're beginning to think of everything that's there in that sense. So you might think of how are you going to explain what you see in this image. Not only are you going to say, I see line or I see shape, you would begin to get more into metacognition with your thinking. So you're saying, I see this, but why do you see that? Aesthetic valuing is basically rating it. If you think of a rubric, rubrics do just that. And later on in the fourth lesson that you'll be working on with aesthetic valuing, you'll have your students actually create a lesson, a rubric, and they'll be evaluating some of their own artwork. So the idea here is that you are evaluating a piece, and what criteria might you be using to evaluate a given piece. So, just a quick review. In corner number 1, what do we have? The alligator, that's right. And the alligator stands for artistic perception. Artistic perception is the key vocabulary words. In corner number 2, we have the cat. Cat stands for creative expression. What are your students making or building or creating? In corner number 3, we have the hippo, which stands for historical and cultural context. Think of how are you relating the artwork to history, or how are you relating the artwork to the culture? In corner number 4, we have the aardvark. What animals in corner number 4? The aardvark. Aardvark stands for aesthetic valuing. Aesthetic valuing is all about judging or using certain criteria, evaluating a piece of art based on criteria that you've created or come up with. Moving right along, we're out of corners. In the center of the room, I would say what's hanging above this, beneath the ceiling in the room is the condor. Condor, if you think of the talent, condor stands for connections, relationships, and applications. How are you connecting your artwork to other subjects or to other domains or other disciplines? How are you relating it? I'll give you an example. Say we started off by looking at a given piece of visual art, and we created a connection with that visual art, and we decided to create a tableau for the image. Now, not only are we using visual arts, but we're connecting it to the theater. So that's what we're talking about when we get into connections, relationships, and applications. You are connecting the arts to other areas and other disciplines. Throughout this session, we'll be reviewing a lesson basically for artistic perception, one for creative expression, one for historical and cultural context, one for aesthetic valuing, and another for connections, relationships, and applications. Thank you very much. We'll be moving right into our next lesson plan. Thanks again. See you soon.